Hi everyone, blessed day to you, wherever you're tuning in from. I greet you in peace and love and joy, prosperity, all the good things. I am going to tell a little piece of my story here today. Today I want to discuss, I think I've done a story previously where I tell this part of the story, but it is important again for me to go through it to get to the point I need to. So I believe I have told you all that in the very early part of my childhood, I had a very great life. Things was was nice. I was running around like a very happy child. That is why I can clearly remember the day that things changed. And it was, I told you all this previously, it was around my age of 6 years old. That is my first horrible memory. Before that, everything was beautiful before that. But the day that everything changed for me, and I remember it very clear, is the day that my mother and my elder sister, stepsister, is the day they went to the voodoo man, as we call them in Trinidad and Tobago. Some other country may call them juju man. What else do they call them? Sangomas, witch doctors. But in Trinidad we call them obia man. So this is the day that my life would have turned upside down. When my mother and my elder sister, they collected me from school, I was going to a very, the first stages that you go through in school. Out in England, we call it kindergarten. Some countries, you call it preschool. Yeah, that is the first school you would go to. So I was going to, that school. And my mother and my sister, they collected me from school. And they went to the appointment that they had at this voodoo man. They carry all the items the voodoo man asked them to carry and so on, which I stated previously. On my father's underwear and rum and whatever else the man asked them for. And my mother collected the charm from the man after the man done, a ritual in a dark room. I can't remember the exact stuff they were saying, the man was saying, but he was speaking in a different tongue to our English normal tongue. He was not speaking in English. Yeah, so he done his ritual and he instructed my mother what she needed to do with the charm that he was giving her, which was she was meant to take the charm and go and put the charm in my father's pillow, and the voodoo man said in 3 days time my father would be back. And I told you all previously I was old enough to know 1, 2 and 3. I was old enough to check. So on the third day, I don't know whether I was sitting there from the morning on the stairs, but I know I was sitting on the stairs for hours on the third day, waiting on my father to return, because I was convinced that he was going to come back on the third day, because I don't know how to explain it, but I felt you felt there was some energies in that voodoo man place that you cannot really explain physically. There was some energies, like now, if I was to explain it now, it's like sometimes you go in some places or you go around some people and you can just feel like your paws and the hair in the back of your head, you feel that vibration, right? So it was some energies that I couldn't explain, that I felt in that voodoo man place. Whatever it was, I was convinced that the third day, I don't know what made me convinced, but I know my father was coming back on the third day. Maybe because the voodoo man, the charm that they done and the ritual that they done, I don't know what made me also scared of it. But I told y'all on the third day when my father, I was sitting on the stairs. I can't remember. It felt for me, it felt like I was sitting there all day. But when my father did come up the stairs, before he get to the door, he had was to cross me where I was sitting on the stairs. He had was to ask me to move. He couldn't go past me to continue up the stairs. I had was to move in order for him to continue up the stairs. So as he was coming up the stairs, I told him immediately, Daddy, Daddy, don't go on that bed and sleep. And I said, Mommy, and I called my big sister name by her name. I said, Mommy and Georgia went by a Obeah man and they put something inside of your pillow. If you go and sleep on that bed, it will kill you. Those were my exact words. Up to this day, I remember those words. Even my father, up to this day, you know, there is some things that happen in your life that you cannot forget. It's like yesterday. So, and we went in that house. My father then, I moved from the stairs after I told him that he asked me to move. I moved from the stairs and he continued to go in the house. When he get inside the house now, he went straight to the bed. And I was standing watching everything. But my father asked me, and when I look back at these things, I realized then the type of parents that I had as a child. Because me as a parent, if my daughter or my little son come and tell me something like that, I would never tell the child to go and touch it. But anyway, as my father went in the house, and he is at the bed now, my father asked me, he said, Natalie, remove it. He asked me to remove it. You know, I must remove the charm in the pillow. But people, God was with me. There was a power that was beyond me, beyond my father, beyond the voodoo man, beyond my mother. There was a power that was beyond. And this power and this force was speaking to me, but nobody couldn't hear what this power and this force was saying to me. So my father said to me, Natalie, take it out of the pillow. He's asking me to take the charm out of the pillow. And I refuse. I said, no, I am not touching it. But the reason I said no, I was not touching it, because I would have never disobeyed my father, because he was the master of the house. We had respect for him. I was scared of him. So I would have never disobeyed. That was the first time I disobeyed my father. I refused. I said, no, I am not touching it. The reason I told him I was not touching it is because the force and the power, what was beyond me and beyond everybody that was in that house, even the voodoo man, the power and the force, what spoke to me, I was scared of that power and that force. And what the power said to me, what was the voice, the spirit said to me, what was speaking to me, it said to me, do not touch it. It will kill you. Do not touch it. So that is why I refused to touch the charm, you know. And my father, he made contact with this charm. People, after my father would make contact with this charm, our life in that house, when I tell you the life that me and my sibling live was hell, I mean it is hell. Because I am in my 40s now. I'm in my mid-40s now. And I cannot seem to get these things out of my head. I don't know if it's like this is the way that God have set it, because it is my calling to teach and to talk about these things. because to be honest, I would have rather not even get into it at all. But I am halfway in it, so I guess I just need to continue. And when I do these videos and stuff, sometimes I don't even want to do these videos. But it's a force beyond me, the same force that was with me back then and tell me do not touch it. That same force that saved my life so many times. Sometimes if I don't do these videos, I can't sleep, people. I can't sleep sometimes if I disobey and I don't do these videos, I can't sleep sometimes. The spirit wouldn't allow me to sleep. Sometimes I need to do the videos in order so I can have peace and sleep. So I'll continue. So after my father, he made contact with the charm, and he and my mother started arguing and stuff. They started arguing from that day, people. From that day, they were always arguing before, but the argument was on a different level now. And I told y'all, there was times that my father was not home, because this is right after the charm come in our house. I told y'all, after the charm come into the house, our life became hell on earth, people, hell on earth. My father would call his daughters one by one in the bed before we go to school in the morning. I have siblings who would say, if they tell their story, they would say that it was even after you come from school in the afternoon. So you was being, that house, it was like the house had a sexual demonic spirit in it. That man was molesting his daughters one by one. When it wasn't that man, like when there was times where this man would be offshore, because he used to work, offshore. So it will have times this man would be offshore. Let me get some light on, people. Hold a minute. I was meant to do this video all night. It's now, in my time, it's about, let me see what time it is. It's about maybe 4 a.m. or after 4 in the morning a.m. I have been, the spirit wanted me to do this video all night, but I was trying to avoid it, and I thought, you know what, let me try and go and sleep 4 a.m. It's 4 a.m. Let me try and sleep. I lie down to sleep. The spirit wouldn't let me sleep. It's like they want me to get this video done before I sleep. So that is what I will do, because I want peace and I want to go and sleep. So yeah, when my father would be offshore, come on, spirit, you want me to do the video? Help me. Yep. So when my father would be offshore, people, what would happen when he is offshore? I used to be asleep. I remember sleeping on a top bunk bed, a top double-decker bed. And while I used to be asleep, this is soon after the charm was in our house, after the charm came in the pillow and stuff, mind you, there was many charms, but this one charm is the charm that I remember so clearly, because it changed everything. After this charm, there was many charms. There was charms that my mother planted by coconut tree. She planted charms by banana tree. She planted charms all over the place. There was charms. She put charms in his food. There was charms all over, people. But what I'm saying is, when my father was offshore, what would happen is there used to be a spirit. I cannot tell you whether it is that man, the Obia man they went to, because the spirit, it kind of resembled that man who done the ritual for my mother and give her all the portions to put in pillow and to feed and to do whatever. So in the night, when my father would be offshore, a spirit, at that time I was young, so I didn't know it was a spirit. But in the night, a black, ugly man would come and rape me in my sleep. And I couldn't come out of the sleep, and I couldn't stop the rape from happening. And I would say rape because it was not like I was having sex with this spirit willingly. I was forced in my sleep. This thing was forcing itself on me and having sex with me in my sleep as a child. This is after the charms and stuff start coming in the household. So ladies out there who are going by all these witch doctors and stuff, I believe this is why the spirit want me to do these videos, you know. It, who it is meant for, they will get it. The right people who it's meant for, they will get the message. Because ladies out there, when you are doing witchcraft and obia, you must know what is going on once you bring these charms into your household and stuff. Now, as I said, when this spirit was raping me in my sleep, I used to fight a lot in my sleep. I would be fighting a lot. But that spirit will always have its way. It will always have its way. And in the end, when I come out of the sleep, I would be absolutely soaking wet like water. The whole bed, my whole body was wet from sweat. Because I used to be fighting a lot in my sleep. Fighting to try to stop the spirit from raping and molesting me. Now, as a child, I never related these things to nobody while I was growing up as a child. I never told anybody, you know, I am having sleep in the night and in my sleep something is coming. And I did not have that relationship with my parents. I could not, I never really had any relationship with my mother whatsoever where communication was concerned. She was not someone who would sit down and communicate with you, you know. So I didn't like things like my period and all these things. I figured out these things on my own. I figured out all these things on my own, you know, like when your period now come, I learned these things in school, in home economic. My home economic teacher, that's the person who I used to ask certain questions. It's a teacher, you know, who used to teach us how, you know, all the womanly things. In Trinidad, we call it home economics. They teach you how to sew, they teach you how to cook, and all these stuff. So I couldn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell the teachers what I was experiencing. My behavior, the way how I used to cope with what was going on in my household was to fight. I would fight a lot. So I was a good fighter. I would always be fighting a lot. I don't know, for some reason, that is how I used to cope. You know, it's like I was trying to divert what was happening by fighting. And I fought so much. I had so much problems with violence and fighting and stuff and being angry from a child. So much so that the teachers in the school, they were concerned. And I told you all, on a Thursday, they called in a psychiatrist in the school. And every Thursday, I used to have a session with that psychiatrist. But I couldn't tell the psychiatrist anything. She was a lovely woman. I don't know if it was the charms and the spirits that was, the spiritual things that was in our home and around our home, planted and stuff. I don't know what it was. But I could not open my mouth and tell anybody what was going on in our household. It became a burden upon me. It became a burden upon me because while watching my siblings, watching my sisters get molested and raped the same way I was being molested and raped, that hurt me so much. And I wish that I could have saved them. Even if I couldn't save myself, I wanted to save my siblings from young. My mother people. These are some of the things I cannot comprehend. And trust me, yeah, I have no hate for my parents. I do not love them and I do not hate them. I feel nothing, absolutely nothing for them. I think the reason I do not hate them is because I understand, I believe in the Creator, I believe in the Almighty God, and I don't want, there's no room in my heart for hate, because I am aware that by hating people and by carrying hate along with you, you're only, it's like drinking poison and waiting for somebody else to die. So I have no hate whatsoever for my parents, but I have no love for them neither. I feel nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, any family members who will watch these videos, I don't care how nobody thinks or feel. This is my story that I am telling. This is my story, and I'm going to keep it real, 100% real, right through. Who vexed loss? I have always been on my own. From age 12, 13, I ran away from home because I couldn't take no more of the raping and the molesting. So from age 12 to 13, I've always been on my own. I even was on the streets, people. I used, that age 12 and 13, when I ran away from home, I was on the streets in Trinidad and Tobago, in Marabella. I used to sit all in front of the stores, walk around the streets in Marabella and beg people for $1, $1, $1 in order so that I can buy food and buy pads and whatever I needed. And in the night, I knew one of my elder sister, my bigger sister, who have a different father, I knew where her great-grandparents lived, and these people was very old. So in the night, I used to climb over their wall and go to the back. They had like an outhouse. I would go into that outhouse and sleep at night, people. So there's many lessons in these stories that I want to point out. Not only did the Obia, when the Obia came in our household, is like the children in the household started becoming physically abused, sexually abused, mentally abused, spiritually abused. So when you're doing witchcraft and you have children in your house, your children will start going astray. And this is what happened in our household. It's like the people who was meant to be in charge of the house, which should have been our parents, mother and father, they allowed a spirit, by they going to do their evil, by my mother going to the witch doctor to do her evil, is like she took the power that God gives to her and her husband as parents, and she placed it in the hands of a demon, in the hands of a witch doctor, in the hands of demons. When I tell y'all that what I went through in my house, in my parents' house, was hell, it was torture, it was mental abuse, it was physical abuse. That man used to beat us so bad. He beat us so bad. I used to take my beating. But I have siblings because I was strong. I think I was built for this from childhood. I think I was built for this. Because I'm telling y'all, I have siblings. One of my siblings, when she used to get beatings, she used to faint away. Imagine that, people. Imagine that. One of my siblings used to get beaten. And from the time she hear the belt, she ready to faint. So you just have to give she one blow and she's on the ground fainting, beating up like a chicken on the ground, people. I have a brother, may he rest in peace, because this brother went through the same torture that we went through, and he witnessed his siblings get tortured by his father, physically, mentally, sexually. My brothers, they witnessed it, they saw it. I had 2 brothers. There was 7 of us for my father. 5 girls and 2 boys. At the time, one of the girls did not exist at the time. one of them was a tiny baby. Oh, she wasn't even born yet. So we're going to deal with 4 girls and the 2 boys. My 2 brothers would witness their sister being molested sexually, physically, mentally. Imagine boy children, I don't know. Anyway, one of my brother, I told y'all, one of my sister used to faint away when she get in the licks. I told y'all, I used to take my licks. I got marks on my skin up to this day. I got marks on my skin where my father beat me and cut through my skin, cut through it. But I just had to be strong. There was something in me that was beyond this earthly realm, some strength that God put in me. If he didn't put that in me, I would have done the same thing my brother done. But I feel like I had to be strong for my siblings. For many years, that's how I felt. I had to be strong for the younger ones. That's how I felt. I had to protect them. I had to save them. I had to help them. So I had to be strong for them. I have, as I said, one of my brother, may he rest in peace. That brother ended up taking his own life. That my brother, when he used to get licks immediately, that boy used to pee himself. He would piss himself immediately. From the time that my father was cruel, he was a wicked man. He was a wicked man. I told y'all, you know, there was a time we had 2 neighbors living close by, 2 boys. One of their names was Junior and the other one name was Tony. Junior was closer to my age, so I had fancied Junior. And Tony was closer to my sister age. So, you know, they were 2 brothers, they were neighbors. We had fancied them, but there was nothing, you know, we were kids, so there wasn't any, nothing to talk about. But one day, I think I told you all about this as well. But as I get older, I deep these things, and I could see then my father was evil because I got kids myself. And the things that he done to his own kids and to other people's kids, I cannot comprehend it. I can't understand it. I can't comprehend it. I cannot come to peace with it. So one day my father took a piece of wood and he put some very long nails in that wood. Some like 4x4 nails. Some long nails. 6 inches, 4 inches, long nails. And my father put the nails in the piece of wood. And when he finished, he put the wood with the nail in it in the ground. And then he covered it in dirt. And there was some children who these 2 boys I named, Tony and Junior, who always used to pass in his yard. And he told them, do not run in the drain. But people, they were children. And we all know, once you tell, I got children myself. So I can say, children, every day I'm telling my children the same thing. They never listen. When you're finished eating, take your dish to the sink. Every day I've been telling my children that for years. And up to this day, my children still leave the plate on the dining table instead of taking their plate, scraping it out and putting it in the sink. Children, they're too busy with other little thoughts in their head. Sometimes they would forget the instruction you give them, especially if you're not their parent as well. So these kids, they continue, even though he told them, do not run in his drain. These kids continue running in his drain. You know what will happen? The nails that he put up in the wood end up going up in one of the boys' foot. Now, when we was young, that thing bothered me from young. But as I'm older now, and I try to deep these things, I try to understand what would make parents like that. And I can't comprehend it, people. I cannot understand how parents could be so evil. Now, you see, my mother, she have never ever in my life, I could speak for me. As I said, this is my story. I'm not speaking for none of the other siblings. My mother have never, she may be almost 80 now or 80. She have never, ever, and I have brought it to her attention and I have asked her because, as I said, the spirit what reveal things to me. My mother, my father, nobody, no auntie, no tanty, no granny, nobody sat down with me and explained nothing to me and showed me nothing. I figured out these things on my own with the spirit of the Almighty, the spirit of the Creator. Is spirit what reveal these things to me and showed me the connection in the Obia, the connection with the Obia and the molestation. People before the Obia came there, yeah, before the Obia came inside the house, before the charm went in my father's pillow, the life we was living was a very comfortable life. I am talking about financially. I told you we had goats, we had chicken, we had rabbits, we had ducks, we had stuff planted in the back. There was big garden out the back, like, you know, the pigeon peas, corn, dashing bush. We had loads of stuff. Loads of stuff. But after the Obia come in the house, the first thing that happened that I am aware of that happened after the Obia come in the house was molestation. People, my mother said she done a charm. The charm she done by that Obia man was to stop my father from running women and to keep him in the house. Up to today, that man, after the Obia came in the bed and he made contact with the Obia, is like the man become a big demon, a sitting demon on a bed. It's like he became a demon that just sits on a bed or lie on his bed. Up to this day, he's still stuck to the bed. It's like that demonic spirit is very powerful. It still got him stuck to the bed up to this day. So he would lie in that bed like if he was chained and tied to that bed. And one by one, he would call his daughters in that bed and molest his daughters in that bed, while my mother stand and watch. And even not just watch, she watched it. And some of her children, she even beat. She even beat some of her children after she watched them get molested by her husband. Then she would beat them. Like, you know, like if they was sleeping with her man. People, it is bare madness. I told you all that brother of mine who used to pee himself, he later took suicide. He later took suicide. Now, I want to break down. It has more to the story, yeah? Let me continue. You see, while me and my siblings was being molested one by one in the bed, people, and after he finished molest one, he would tell you to go and bath, and then he would call another sister in the bed, and he would molest her and do the same, and then send her to the bath. Many occasions, people, many occasions, my mother would be right there standing in the room that this is happening. She would be right there standing watching while this is happening. Now, I told y'all, my brother later took his own life at a very young age as well. He had one child, and this brother took suicide. I told y'all, after my brother took suicide, my mother did not go to the funeral. She made her other kids, you know, she made her other kids, my other siblings, believe it's because she could not cope and she couldn't deal with that. But me, who've been studying spiritual things for a very long time and understand a lot of spiritual things, I know why she didn't go to the funeral. Because she would have exposed herself. She would have exposed herself. And for people who, understand certain things about witchcraft and stuff, when they do certain sacrifice and rituals and stuff, they're not allowed to go to the funeral. They're not allowed to go to the people's funeral. There is many spiritual reasons why they're not allowed to go to this funeral. You see, after they've been ramping with the devil for so long and they've been getting charms and gifts and what they want from the devil, it comes a point in time that they just have to make a big sacrifice. And they know that. They know that. My mother, you see, this woman, she walks around and she would pretend she is a saint. If you see my mother, you would think that she cannot hurt a fly, people. Yeah? So sometimes it's not good to judge the book like by the cover. If you see my mother, you would think she can't hurt a fly. Another thing I want to put in this video. You may want to know, well, how did these abuse stop? How did the abuse stop? How it come to an end? I'll tell you how it come to an end. It come to an end not because my mother got fed up of this man raping child number 1, child number 2, child number 3, child number 4, child number 5. No, it wasn't because of that. It came to an end because I put it to an end. One day I visited my mother's house. I had already run away from home, but I knew I left my other siblings there, and I had loved my siblings to pieces. I had loved my siblings back then to pieces. So I decided, back then I used to rob men. So that day I trick a man and I get a nice piece of money. So I decided, let me go to my mother's house and drop some money so my siblings could, eat nice and, have some fun. Because people, this is another thing I need to drop in here. Anyway, let me drop it in. You see, after that witchcraft came in our house, I told y'all we had spiritual rape in your sleep. You're getting raped spiritually in your sleep. You're getting raped physically by your father. You're getting mental abuse because they like to tell you you're stupid and you're this and that. This is how these people, what you used to deal with their children. That is why now I don't speak negative to my children, and I don't allow nobody to tell my children they're stupid, they head big. No, I make my children know they are kings and queens. So I don't allow nobody to speak bad to my children because of stuff like these. Because these people, when they are your parents and they're telling you you're stupid, they're really gonna make you stupid. Eventually, you're gonna become stupid. Yeah? So, yeah. So, and this day, it's so much to tell. So, what I was saying is, when we wasn't abused physically, mentally, spiritually, sexually, verbally, we get every type of abuse you can think about, we had it. Not only the abuse was going on, poverty was also slipping in. So what I'm trying to say, see, when you bring the obia in, all the goodness you have inside, it will get destroyed. Because every single child in that house got tampered with, physically, mentally, sexually, spiritually, every single child. And not only that, we started going into poverty as well. Poverty started coming in. The ducks and the chicken and the goat and all them good things I told y'all, they end up going one by one, piece by piece, bit by bit. The whole big back we had a big back fence around with animals. Everything end up scattering, going eventually piece by piece. And eventually That same house that my mother put the charm in and she planted charms by coconut tree and banana tree. Eventually, my father sold that house with she in it, with her children in it. But back to the story, how it ended. How did the molestation come to an end? One day, as I said, I used to rob men. I would look very sexy and I would select some weak Indian man. I would make sure it's none of the Negroes because you know them Negroes, they're strong and powerful. So I know what I'm dealing with. I used to have to select my victim right. So I would always select somebody who is weaker than me or who look a bit more feeble, who I could handle. Let's put it that way. So as I said, I trick this man and I get a big piece of money. So when I got the money now, the first place I used to go when I get money is to my mother's house. So I went straight to my mother's house. And I saw one of my sister outside. Because when I go to my mother's house back then, I would not go and knock their door at all. Because I had run away from home. Because I was fed up of being raped and abused and all of that. So I had run away from home. And I had a great fear for my father. So I would never go and knock the door. And he did not want me around. Because by this time, I was becoming awakened. By this time, I was realizing that what was going on in the household was BS, was nonsense. I was getting strong by this time. So he didn't want me around to strengthen the other girls and pull them out and tell them, listen, what he doing is wrong, let's go, get out of here. He didn't want me around for those reasons. So I hung about the house and I waited to see if one of my siblings gonna come out of the house. And one of my sisters did come out of the house. And when that sister came out of the house, I called her by name and to make her aware of my presence. So she became aware of me and she came closer to talk to me. And I asked her, what's wrong? Where is our mother? And she said to me, Mommy gone by my godmother. I had a rich godmother living, she used to run a pub and stuff, one of my rich godmothers. So my sister said, Mommy gone by my godmother. That godmother of mine, her name was Patsy. She lives in Marabella. She used to run a pub and stuff. For people of Trinidad who want to know who she is, her name is Patsy. So my mother went by my godmother to work. So my sister said, and as I reach to this point, let me drop another point in here. One thing I also realized, people, is like when we were younger, my mother used to stand in the very same room and watch her children get abused. I told you all that some of the children even get whipped after they get the abuse. I never got whipped after my abuse. I think my mother knew who to do she nonsense to, because I wouldn't have fight her back. I would have run, I would have breaks, I would have defend myself somehow, but I wouldn't have fight her back. Because I know I wouldn't have fight her back, but also know I was not going to stand up after getting raped and take no beating. I wouldn't have done that. And by this time, I had lost respect for my mother. Somehow, when I said I had lost respect for her, I didn't have respect for her. How could you have respect for a mother who's standing up watching you get raped every day for like 6-7 years straight? How could you respect somebody like that? God was with me, yeah, people. If God wasn't with me, I wouldn't be even here to tell you the story. I would have do like what my brother do. So anyway, so this day, my sister came to me and she told me what I was saying. She told me what happened, but let's get back to this point. What I realized I was saying to y'all, when we were younger, this woman, our mother, she used to stand in the room and watch us get molested. But as we started getting older, because I reached to the point where my sister said my mother went to my godmother to work, that is what made me refresh my mind to this point. as I said, when we was younger, she used to stand and watch it. But as we get older, as we started getting older, many times she would put herself out of the way. Like, for example, how my sister said that my mother went to my godmother to work. At times she would put herself out of the way as we was getting older. Sometimes if she had was to go out the yard and sit down, she would go out the yard and sit down, like give him room to do what he have to do. Now looking back at that, I don't know if she was doing it because we was a bit older and she was scared then that if we reported to the police, she would simply say she did not see, because we were older now, so we can explain things to outside to the law if the law was to get involved. I believe, part of me believe this is the reason why she used to put herself out of the way. So if the police come, because these people was covering their tracks. Even my father, while he used to be molesting us and stuff, there is stuff he used to do to make sure that we did not get pregnant. I remember all these things. So these people was very clever in their thinking. Very clever. Back to, I will be on this channel. I'll be giving you all lots and lots of stories as the spirit laid upon my heart, and as they keep me awake and I can't sleep, then I will use this platform to tell you all the stories. So back to the point now where my sister came out of the yard and she met me and stuff, and I asked her, where's my mother? She said my mother gone by my godmother to work. I said, what's the matter with you then? Because she was crying and she was sad. I said, what's the matter with you? She told me she going to kill herself today. She had enough and she cannot take anymore. She said she had enough and she can't take anymore. The man just finished messing with her. That's what she told me. The man just finished, what's the word she used? Bothering her. Or she did not use the word molestation. She didn't use interfering. She said the man just finished interfering with her and she had enough. And she was going to kill herself that day. So you see, the spirit of suicide was strong in our family as well. After that Obia come in the house, the spirit of suicide also came in with the Obia, because the things what was happening in the household to the children, we were suicidal. So I said to my sister, don't do anything. I will get you help today. Don't do anything. I am going to get you some help today. And that is what I done. I went straight to the bloody police station, people. Straight to the police station, because it was life and death situation. Because I knew what my siblings was going through, because I had gone through it myself and run away from home. So at this time I was free from the abuse now. I was living with my ex-boyfriend at this time. The one who I showed you all is on the street in Trinidad, a vagrant. Yes, I was living with him at the time. And, but he was not with me while I was visiting my mother's house. I was young and I used to be, going on my beats, doing my own thing. Of course, he was a young man as well. So he out there with his friends on his own beats. So he wasn't with me at this time. So I told my sister I was going to get her help. And that is what I done. Straight to the police station I went. And I came back to my mother's house with the police. I told y'all what happened there. The police took my sister. He didn't want my sister to go anyway. It was a Saturday. He did not want my sister to go anyway. He said to the police, my sister not going anywhere until she mother come home, because she's not, there's no adult here and she mother not here and she not going anywhere. Because he knew a bit of the law, but he didn't know enough. But he knew a bit of the law, so that's why he said to them, my sister not going anywhere because there's no adult to escort her, and her mother is not here. So By the time, if the police didn't use their brain and say to him, well, Natalie made a report, and Natalie is an adult, so Natalie can escort her. He was hoping that my sister remained there so he could have drilled her head. He could have deal with her brain and tell her what to say and what not to say. But thank God it didn't work out that way. So therefore, when my sister got examined, the medical doctor in Trinidad and Tobago at San Fernando General Hospital, they examined her and they provided the evidence and the fact that up to that very Saturday, my sister was interfered with. That's the word the doctors use as well. Okay? She was violated, she was molested, she was raped on that very same day. Very same day, which was the Saturday. I told you all in other stories what happened on the Sunday. On the Sunday, the police did find him and he got locked up on the Sunday. That matter did go to court, and the sentence he did get was 25 years to life with strokes in Trinidad and Tobago, a high court in San Fernando. Okay? 25 years to life with 12 strokes or 10 strokes. That was the sentence passed. He did 6 years, and 6 years after he came out. Now, what I want to stress on in this video, I'm going to end it. I got 9 minutes. I'm going to end it and we'll go get some sleep. Because I'm feeling nice and sleepy now. I think it's because I get this out. Thank you, Lord. Yeah. So, yeah, where did I reach now? Let me see. So, yes, what the point I want to drive on in this story is not just the rape and the molestation and stuff. I want y'all to see and understand this point. We had my life before that Obia charm came into our home was perfect, nice and innocent, normal childhood. Normal childhood. But after the Obia came in, I told y'all it was sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse, because when you're sleeping in the night, things raping you. Now, if my mother did not go and bring charms inside the house, these things wouldn't have happened. How do I know? Because I got children myself. And because I'm not tampering in these things, my children is not experiencing these things. Not only, what I also discovered, people, there is so much stories to tell you. But what I went on a mission to understand why my parents were so evil. Because I am a person, I believe in generational curses and generational blessings. People, when I trace down to my ancestors, I see there's some rumors. There's rumors by my family members that states that my grandfather was also the same way. That my grandfather was also a molester. That my grandfather also slept with one of his stepdaughter and impregnated this stepdaughter with child. So, as I was experiencing certain things and I see my siblings experience certain things, I went digging in the family to find out what the hell going on. Why it is everybody getting raped and stuff. I also found out that my father, not only did he molest his 4 children, people, before I was even born, I have an older sister who is not my father's child. And I've shared her face on my videos. That woman who came to my house with poison wine and poisoned me. And then she came up with the other 2 women to bring me the black shoes as a gift. The woman I called Georgia. I have to forgive all these people, all of them. Because when I go into the Georgia story, And Georgia never confessed and said my father messed with she, none of it. She kept it all a secret. It was my father. After Georgia come and tried to kill me, I confronted my father because I had spirit told me to call my father and ask him certain questions. And I followed the spirit, just like how the spirit have me up here doing video at this hour of the morning I can sleep. It's the same way the spirit told me phone my father and ask him why it is the woman Georgia wants to kill his children. And when I phoned my father and asked him that is when I found out that my father, well, he said he and my sister was having a relationship, an affair behind my mother's back. This is his exact words. He said he and my sister Georgia was having a relationship behind my mother's back. And he said, I believe your mother knew. That is why he don't effing respect her. So he believed that my mother was aware of his relationship with her eldest daughter, which was not his child. But me as a mother with children, yeah, I have to always put myself, switch it to try to comprehend these people. Because my father met my mother with 2 children. Well, she had more than 2 children, but she had 2 in her care. At the time when he met her, she didn't have 6 children or 5 children. But she had 2 in her care at the time. And the rest of them, they were given to their father. They were given to some auntie family. Some of them was given away. My mother gave away some of her children. Some of them, I have a brother who don't know who his father is. I got a brother, he don't know who his father is. I got another brother, he don't even have a relationship with his mother. My mother cast him away to America when he was young. And, you know, he didn't get his paperwork sorted and stuff in order to travel and go on visit and stuff. So the last time she would have seen that brother, maybe when he was around 17, 18 years. And that was the last time I made contact with that brother as well in the physical. So some of them was given away to their father, and some of them was given away with the one brother who my mother did not know who his father was. She gave him away to some auntie as well. So he grew up not knowing who his father is and with strangers as well. So yes, so my father said he met my mother with 2 children. One of my brother who died, may he rest in peace. Not the brother who took suicide. That was my father, blood child. That was my blood brother, my mother and father. That was my last brother, the one who took suicide. But this brother, who I'm talking about, who my father met my mother with, and he said he met her with 2 children. One of the 2 children is the woman I called Georgia. This man mined Georgia from small. And then he went and lay with Georgia. Had an affair. He called it an affair. I don't call it an affair. It's abuse. He abused Georgia. He violated her and he abused her. This is the reason. This is what brought so much hate in Georgia's heart for my father's children. As I told y'all, is because Georgia had come to kill me. Previously, she had taken hot rice water and threw on one of my sister, giving my sister 1st-degree burn. And then she came for my life. So this is why I had to ask my father, why is it? And it wasn't me who asked him. Spirit, I asked him physically, but it was a force higher than me what instructed me to ask him. And asking him, it put a lot of pieces together. He was molesting Georgia. He was raping Georgia. He violated Georgia. He abused Georgia. And she went through the same abuse because he himself told me with his mouth that when he met my mother with those 2 children, they couldn't read and write. And he used to beat their ass. That's what he said. so that they could read and write. He's to beat their ass. That's what he said. So imagine you take these two children. Ladies, you're listening and be careful, because you see some of these men out here, you cannot trust them with your kids. And you can't trust them with kids who is not theirs neither. You can't even trust them with their own kids, because my father Mels, and he violated his own children, what came out of his ball sack. So for him to violate Georgia, I guess we should not be shocked, because she did not come from his ball sack. She was another man's child. So this is what brought so much hate in Georgia's heart for her siblings, for that man's children. Because in her head, it's like he had destroyed her life. But what she did not understand is that his own children's life he had destroyed also. But it's just that even though our life was destroyed, in her head, we were still better than her, because we was able to read and we was able to write. Some of us was driving. It's because of that inner ambition. But we was also violated. Just the same way he violated her. We did not get any different violation. He violated us the same way. Sexually, verbally, mentally, spiritually, every way we get violated. I think I have poured out a lot tonight here. Well, this morning here, I think I've poured out a lot. We have reached an hour now. So I'm going to leave it here for now. I feel very good. I feel relief. Can go and sleep now. So, people, what I want you to watch in this story is that, as I said, before that charm came into our house, our home was so perfect. But after the charm came in, it's like disaster was going ahead of us. Disaster was going ahead of my mother. Disaster. Disaster, disaster, disaster. I got brother who took his life. We got sisters started running away from home. Not one of my mother's children, only one of my sibling, my last sibling, finished school. The rest of us, we couldn't even flicking finish school. If we wasn't moving from school to school, it's because I ran away from home and I never get to complete school. So what I'm trying to say is, once you enter these charms into your house, you must, once you are out there and you are messing with witchcraft and you got children in your house, take note of what is happening after you collect the charms. For me and what I witnessed in our household, nothing good came from those charms. The only thing that came was my father came back in 3 days, as the Obia man say. That was it. After he come back, life was hell. The life we had before, it changed. Everything changed. The atmosphere changed. Everything changed. The children changed. Everything changed. Even the ducks and the chicken, they changed because they vanish. They start vanishing. That house was hell, people. It was hell. It was hell we grew up in. Perfect hell. I didn't want to kill myself. For some reason, that was never really something that I dwelled on, to kill myself. But I did want to kill my father, definitely. Me and my sister, we tried giving him some rat poison. Yes, I wanted him dead at one point. Now, the next story anyway, I'm not gonna say what our next story is gonna be, but I will continue doing our stories as we do them, as the spirit urge me. When I can't bloody sleep and the spirit would not leave me alone and they want me to tell a story, I'll just pop here and tell a story. So people, I'm gonna leave you here. Peace and love, joy, prosperity. I hope all these stories I'm telling is gonna change some people's life. I hope it's gonna stop some people from going to the voodoo man and the obia man and the sangoma and collecting their little charms and their little portions to put in your husband's food or your husband's pillow to hold the man. If you have children in your house, be careful, because whatever you sow, that is what you're gonna reap. If you're gonna be putting charms in some man thing to control the man, bet your bottom dollar, if you have children, somebody is waiting to control your children just the same way you controlling that man, or worse. Yeah. So for my father coming back in that 3 days time, my mother paid the witch doctor in cash, and she also paid the witch doctor in whatever things he told her to bring, the underwear and all these bits and pieces. She paid in that for the Obia man for that. But she also paid a heavy price. I believe that my brother who took suicide, that suicide was also a price that my mother paid. Because that same brother, before he took suicide, in his younger days, things used to always be bothering him. The spirits my mother was bringing in the house would be speaking to my brother. They would tell him to sharpen up his cutlass and go and kill people and all sorts. He could have maybe killed all of we ass in that house as well, because my brother was, now that I understand spiritual things, back then I used to laugh because I was young and I didn't understand these spiritual things. I used to sit with my brother and we would talk, and my brother would tell me what the spirit telling him. We sitting on the stairs and we having a spliff, and my brother would tell me what the spirit is telling him, and it was not the ganja making him talk that, no, because sometimes he didn't even have a spliff and he would still be talking what the spirit telling him. Now I know my brother, he was possessed. The charms and stuff that she was bringing in the house, it possessed. My brother became possessed. He became possessed. And that is why later he ended up killing himself. Now, if I was to go down, I dig into this family's background, and I would say I have an auntie. And this auntie, she's not really my auntie. She is my auntie, isn't it? Because she's not my grandfather child, but she's my grandmother child. So she is my auntie. This auntie of mine's by my father. So my father, my younger brother, which is my father's child, he took his own life. And coming to find out, people, is because I would find out this auntie of mine's, who it is rumored, it is alleged by family members that this auntie was impregnated by my grandfather. So this auntie would have get pregnant by her stepfather, which is my grandfather. And allegedly, it is alleged, family members who told me this, it is alleged that that auntie bore a child for my grandfather, which was her stepfather. It is alleged that she bore a child for that man. That same auntie later had a son who took suicide. Just like how my father's son took suicide, his sister have a son. Imagine that. Imagine a brother and a sister. Same bloodline. Both of their sons. I think that was her youngest son as well. Took suicide. And for my father, that was his youngest son as well. Took suicide. Now, as we continue in the story, I will tell you all more about the generational curses. Because when you dig deep, the answers is right there. If you dig, you will find it. As I continued digging, I realized that my grandmother, she was in serious witchcraft. She used to do witchcraft as a job for many people. But then if you look through my grandmother's children, you would see many. You would see the curses. You would see the suicide. You would see the untimely death. You would see the premature death. You would see many of them, they die in their 50s. They didn't even reach 60. My grandmother children, my grandmother who used to practice the witchcraft. You will see, that's my father's mother. You will see her children. Many of her children die prematurely, untimely, short deaths. They live like maybe 50, early 50s, they drop dead. Another thing, people, is that I found out many of the men were pedophiles, perverts, messing with the younger people in the generation. So the family, they were proper curse, generational curse, left, right, and center, incest, molestation, rape. Oh my God, it's hell upon earth. People, stay away from obia. Stay away from witchcraft. You might get one good thing. Like my mother, she get in her head, she get one good thing. She get her man back in 3 days' time. But people, from that day, our house was dividing, and from that day, our house started falling apart. Because I told y'all, we had a perfect home before then. And before that day, I never disobeyed my father. But that was the very first day that I disobeyed. I refused to touch that thing in the pillow. So if you really go into the story and you really analyze this story, my mother did not get anything from that devil. Because after she got back she husband in 3 days, that husband didn't want to sleep with she anymore. The husband did not want to sex she anymore. The husband was sexing his daughters after she brought the man back in the 3 days. Because that's what she asked the Obia man for. She asked the Obia man to bring back the husband. Maybe she should have asked the Obia man to bring back she husband, make she husband a loving husband and a good father, and she should have put more thing on the list. But the devil can't make nobody good. So the devil could only make you worse. So after the man come back, she didn't get nothing out of that. After the man come back, the man don't want to sleep with you no more. The man sleeping with your daughters in front of your face. How is that a present? How is that good? So she did not get anything. She ended up getting a house sold on her. She ended up, all her ducks gone, all her chicken gone. She lost a lot by going to that devil. And there is more to the story. I told y'all, not only did we go into poverty and lost everything, we became beggars. My mother, my father sold the house, because like he started going mad. He couldn't take anymore. After he gone through about all the girl children in the house, nobody else for to go through anymore, because he done molest and violate all the children in the house. It came a point in time like he was going mad. He wanted to get away, but he was trapped. He wanted to leave, but he was trapped, because he didn't want to leave the children, but he still leave. He sell the house on my mother. He sold the house while my mother was in the house with children. He sold the house. That's how much the man was getting away. Well, you know, after he sold the house, my mother gone back by the Obia man. When I tell y'all, my mother used to live by the Obia man people. You see how you just take water and bath and wash and cook? My mother used to go by the Obia man like she drinking water. If not weekly, maybe twice a month. My mother used to live by the Obia man. That is where her answers used to come from. So after the house was sold and stuff, we became beggars. I told you all we had duck chicken, all the duck chicken, everything gone. We became beggar. When we wasn't begging by the Catholic Church, we was begging by the mosque. When we wasn't begging by the mosque, we begging by orphanage. We was begging all over for clothes and shoes and stuff. So you see how much things was lost? Before the man was working, man had a good job, fence around all the back and everything. Anyway, we shall continue this story, because the story is so deep, and I don't want it to be too long, because I want people to take in the messages. So we shall continue. another time, people. Okay, we have already reached 1 hour 14 minutes. So we shall continue. Have a blessed day wherever you are. Peace and love and joy. People out there who have children, please stay away from voodoo. Stay away from voodoo. Because when you go by the Obeah and you go by these voodoo people, you are just focused on what you want, but you're not seeing all the other things that come in, because they give you what you want, but you don't see the rest that is happening around you. Yeah, you are distracted with what you want, so you don't see the destruction that taking place around you when you go to these voodoo man. Careful, people. Be very careful and watch. The majority of these Obeah people, they are living in some shack. That Obeah man my mother went to for help, he was living worse than us. He had no chicken, no duck, no goat, no rabbit, none of it. He was living in a little tiny hut. Our house, our yard, our everything was bigger and greater than that man. And that man, with his dirty, stinky house, he let us shack. My mother collect evil charm from him to bring in she good house. Yeah? So people, take note and be careful. Watch your children out there. Trust nobody with your children. As we continue the stories, we'll continue. Have a blessed, lovely day, and we shall continue. Natalie, don't want to be too long in the video because I want you all to enjoy the stories and I want you all to get the messages in it. And it must be able to help some people out there. Please, people, if you have kids in your house, please, I beg, don't go to the voodoo man and the Shango man and the witch doctors and bring charms into your home. Because while you are sleeping at the night and you get what you want, your children is being violated by these spirits in their dreams. Okay? Have a blessed night. We shall catch up very soon again. Peace and love.